Welcome everyone, my name is Under the Radar and welcome to a very special video. This is going to be the draft analysis that I'm going to be using for NPA. Holy crap. Let me just talk a little bit about the draft first, because the max amount of people I've ever had to draft around was 16. And that wasn't too bad. Like, I would hardly ever get sniped. Drafting with 24 people was easily the most difficult and painstaking process I have ever been a part of in my entire life. And this is including trying to build a government building with a group of 70-year-olds. It was so difficult. Every single time that I'd be like, okay, hey look, this thing is available, I'm gonna take this. 2 picks later, it would get sniped from me. Literally 2 picks later. I had a list of 11 mons. I had 3 different lists. I was like, okay, well, if this gets sniped, I'll take this instead. By the end of the first round, every single one of those plans had to be thrown out. Every single one of them, for one reason or another. Whether it was like a Ferrothorn got sniped from me. Spoiler alert, I didn't get Ferrothorn. Whether it was a Thundurus got sniped from me. Something. Like, every single one of them that was a crucial member of my team got sniped. Things were going so early. Like, Jolteon was going beginning of round 3. I'm trying to think of what else went really. Pelipper went round 1. Mimikyu went round 1. Like, it was one of the most difficult drafts I've ever been a part of. It was absolutely so horrifyingly scary, but it was awesome. Like, it was probably one of the most fun drafts I've ever been a part of. I've never been in a draft to where every single turn I would have to be like, okay, I don't know what I want to take. I don't know what I want to take. And then I would have to think about it, and then I would have to rebuild everything around it. I would have to take a lower tier version of what I really wanted. But in the end of it, I think I got a really good draft. I think I might have actually gotten one of the better drafts. I don't want to say the best, because Elliot's is by far the best. Holy ballsack. I'm not going to tell you what his team is, but his draft is quite literally the best draft I have ever seen in, well, I don't want to say ever. One of the best drafts I've ever seen in Draft League, in tiers, with 24 people, with 12 people. It is one of the best drafts. So, what did I want? Well, you already know that I wanted Ferrothorn. I wanted Hazard Stack, obviously, because that's something that I'm very comfortable with. That's how I won P4G. I wanted some good setup spam. I really enjoyed setup spam on my P4G team, like Dragon Dance, Tyrantrum, Calm Mind, Mesprit. I had Nasty Pass Togekiss. Well, not Nasty Pass, just Nasty Plot. I had Calm Mind Suicune. I had Calm Mind Jirachi. Like, I had a lot of setup. So I definitely wanted that. I wanted a lot of Volt Turn. I wanted Hazard Stack. I wanted a really powerful wall-breaking electric type that could be very diverse. Trying to think. And in my low-tier mons, I wanted Frogadier. I even wanted Munchlax, honestly. There was a couple different reasons why, because the team that I originally built, that I originally wanted to draft, was extremely weak to things like fire, like Entei and Nidoking and Nidoqueen and things like that. So I really wanted Munchlax just to be like a tank, to take things and just get off residual damage on things, to make it easier for a Scarfer to kill. So I really wanted Munchlax. I really wanted a mon of that sort. However, the first pick that I wanted to get, in my opinion, one of the best Dragon Dancers in the game, and I wanted to get it early. The guy after me had it for 2 seasons in a row, won the championship both times, so I was like, I'm not going to let him have it, and even if he doesn't want it, I just don't want him having it. I don't want him having a chance to use it again and get to the championship and win a third title in the NPA, because he has a mon that he's extremely good with using, so I'll take it instead. And my friends, that is Zardex. Zardex is, in my opinion, one of the best Dragon Dancers in the entire league. The reason why I say this is because it's so fat. With 78 HP and 111 defense and 85 in SPDF, it can be extremely fat. It has reliable recovery. It has no quad weaknesses once it mega evolves. It is quad weak to rocks before it comes in, but that's no big deal. It has 130 in both offenses. People forget this. People forget that Megazard X can be a very potent flamethrower, Dragon Pulse, and a mixed attacker to try to wear down teams, because there are teams that can wall a physical fire type, but a special fire type they can't. So I really wanted to have Zardex for that main reason. It's also a really good speed tier for a Dragon Dancer, base 100, same as Salamence, and with access to support moves like Will-O-Wisp, it's also really easy to set up on fatter teams. And this thing also has multiple forms of setup: Swords Dance, Dragon Dance, Belly Drum, Flame Charge. So it's not like it's stuck into a Dragon Dancing role every single week. And if it is, it's not just the type of mon that you have to run max attack, max speed, Dragon Dance to sweep an entire team. It's very difficult to build around, and it's also very difficult to use in my opinion. I personally have never been a big fan of Zardex. In fact, if you watch probably one of the oldest videos on my channel, back when X and Y first came out, I said that this was my least favorite Mega Evolution. I had a reason for it. I sucked at facing it. Just facing a Zardex is always scary. Like, you have to devote a lot of prep to it. Forces a lot of prep. It forces people to want to bring hazards, which if I'm bringing hazards myself, I will win a hazard war. I'm determined to win a hazard war most of the time. But overall, I think Zardex is probably one of the best first round picks that I can have. It gives me a really good thing to build my team around. It also starts both cores, a Fire Water Grass and a Dragon Fairy Steel, so that's really, really nice. And I'm just really happy with this mon. I'm excited to use it, and I personally think I built around it really, really well. Like, I could have done some things a little bit better, but you know, what can you do? So since Zard does have that quad weakness to rocks before it switches in, you need very good hazard removal. And I wanted good hazard removal plus really good hazards. I want spikes, I want stealth rocks, and I want toxic spikes. I want at least one user of each, potentially 3. I want a minimum of like 2 or 3 stealth rockers. Like, that's just what I enjoy having. And I wanted Ferrothorn to pair up with this, because this quad resist fire, that is resistant to dragon, it can take on ground pretty decently, and rock, which Mega Zardex has a little bit of trouble with. Like, they pair up very, very well in my opinion, and I really wanted Ferrothorn. But shout out to my boy the Exception. He sniped it from me, and I wanted to cry and punch myself in the penis, but it's whatever. But I really wanted to have the hazard roll, no matter what, and I noticed that there was a hazard removal option that hadn't been taken yet, and that was Skarmory. Like, whenever I noticed that this thing was still available, I could not pass this thing up. I couldn't do it. There was other things on the table that I was looking at that I was like, holy crap, how do I pass this up? In round 2, some crazy stuff was going, right? So Pelipper went round 1, okay? Pelipper went round 1. Both Thunderouses went this round. There was just a lot of stuff that went, and for Skarmory to still be available, I was extremely happy with. Normally Skarmory can be a round 1 pick, and whenever I was looking, I was like, holy shit, Clefable is also still available. So it was very hard for me to choose between Skarmory and Clefable. Also, I'm sorry if some of these graphics have misspellings. I'm dyslexic, so it's very hard for me to judge what's actually right and not. But whatever. I don't really care. I sent it to some people and I said, here, look over this for me and tell me if there's anything misspelled so I could like get an outside opinion on it. Anyway, you guys don't need to know about all that. But yeah, it was very hard for me to choose between Clef and Skarm. Skarm gave me hazard removal, whereas Clef did not, and that was the big thing. I could have taken Clef and then Fortress, but I think that Skarmory was a little bit better. Skarmory gives me phasing. It gives me well, 2 forms if you count Roar and Whirlwind. It gives me Stealth Rocks, Spikes, Defog. It gives me a loose Edgequake check, because Stone Edge still does a lot to this thing depending on what it's from. Like, if it's from a Terrakion, it doesn't really matter, because it still does a metric shit ton. Same thing with Close Combat. But it gives me a loose check to Edgequake, which, spoiler alert, my team is still pretty weak too. So that's one thing I dislike about my team. But overall, I think that Skarmory was probably the best hazard removal left. It's already one of the best hazard removals in the game, but because it does also give me hazards, that's something that I really wanted. And if I wanted to, I could always get something later on down the line with Rapid Spin or Defog again, like Crobat maybe. So I wanted a really good electric type, right? After this, I started thinking about, like, I noticed how much I was getting sniped. Like, things that I was planning on taking 4th round went in the 1st round. Like, I had to start thinking about what is so crucial to my team right now that if I don't take now, won't come back to me. And that was my electric type. I knew it wasn't going to get back to me. I knew it wasn't. And the reason why I knew it is because there were 2 rain teams at the end of the draft that did not have their electric type yet. Jodor had Pelipper, and Kyle had Politoed. So 2 rain teams were being formed. Neither one of them had their electric type yet. And I wanted Thundurus T, and that got sniped from me. Then I was like, well, I can take Thundy-Eye. Like, that's not that much of a difference. They're both pretty good. I now get Prankster instead of Lightning Rod, but it's, I mean, not Lightning Rod, Volt Absorb, but it's not the end of the world. And of course, both of those got sniped. So when I saw that there were rain teams, I was like, okay, I just need to take my electric type now, deal with the repercussions later. Having a really good Volt Switcher and having a Volt Switcher that can also use U-Turn is more important than anything to me right now. And you can probably guess which electric type it is. And that electric type that I chose was Heliolisk. Now, taking it round 3 was probably a little bit early, but in a 24-man draft, it was round like 50 or something like that. No, 60, 48, plus 11, 59th, something like that. So it was the equivalent of like round 4 or 5 of a regular draft. So it's not like it's the worst time to take Heliolisk, but it's what I needed. It was not going to get back to me. Someone questioned it in the chat and was like, well, why would you take it this round? Because I need an electric type and it wasn't going to get back to me. But this gives me a U-turner and a Volt Switcher. Gives me a very hard-hitting special type. Something that can abuse the Z-move rule that they have in this league, to where you can run any Z-Crystal that's like offensive, and then some Z-moves are banned, but you can run them on any Mon. So this has a pretty good move pool, like Surf, Dark Pulse, Focus Blast, Thunderbolt, so I can run the stab one if I need to break through a wall. Normal might be it. Can't remember off the top of my head, but it has some pretty good moves. It's very fast, base 109, so it gives me something that would force things like Lottie to run max speed timid in order to outspeed me. That's really, really nice to be able to know that Lottie isn't going to be able to run a shit ton of HP. Things like Superior, they're going to have to run a lot of speed. So they're either not going to have a lot of special attack, which Superior doesn't really have to, so that's a bad example, but you get what I'm trying to say. It forces teams to prep in a different way, and I really, really like that about this Mon. I don't even want to say the downside, but the negative thing about taking it this early is that what I wanted to take here, I now know I'm not going to get. Trying to think, there was a fairy type still available that I wanted that wasn't going to get back to me. No, it wasn't even a fairy type. There was something that I wanted that I didn't think was going to get back to me, so I kind of decided to build the rest of my team without that. So because those two got sniped and I took this early, knowing it wouldn't get back to me, I wasn't going to have a really good next typing that I can't remember what I wanted, but Heliolisk works out really well for the team. Giving me a water immunity is also really, really huge. The fact that now things like Suicune, Vaporeon, they are not able to run like Mono Scald and hit the entirety of my team is really, really nice. It forces them to run Ice Beam. They can't run a Calm Mind set on Suicune without running Ice Beam, so they can't be like Calm Mind, Rest, and Sleep Talk. So they would have to be like Calm Mind, Rest, and I can beat them that way. And the fact that this pretty much, like, I faced Azumarill week 1, and the fact that this pretty much just shuts down Belly Drum Azumarill is absolutely huge, and that makes me pretty happy. Like, me being able to look at a draft and being able to say, okay, I have a really good fast water immunity. She can be Belly Drum Aqua Jet. That makes me very happy. That makes it a lot easier for me. Now, but that goes for like other things too. Like I think I faced Feraligatr. No, Feraligatr wasn't drafted. There was another water type that can set up that I'm not looking forward to facing, but I think Heliolisk is a very good matchup for the team. Now, once I got Heliolisk, I pretty much was like, well, the next best thing that is available when it gets back to me is what I'm going to take. Had no idea what it was going to be. Didn't really care. But I knew that it had to be like below tier 2. If I wanted to take another tier 2, it would be very difficult and it would limit the rest of my draft. If I want to take another tier 2, I have to do it later on in the draft. But plus, there wasn't a whole lot of them left that I really wanted at that point in time. So I only have one Stealth Rocker right now. I definitely wanted another. I don't have any Toxic Spikes. You can probably see where this is going. And I wanted something that could be a very good mixed attacker and a very good bulky attacker. And Nidoqueen is pretty much the definition of all that. It gives me the second rocker that I want. It gives me a Toxic Spikes user. It gives me another Phaser because it does have access to Roar. It gives me a very good mixed attacker with the likes of Poison Jab, the Elemental Punches, along with just Bolt Beam coverage, Flamethrower, Sludge Wave, and Earth Power. Sheer Force is an amazing ability because it turns this tank into a very offensive tank as well. It's also a very good speed tier of 76, so things like base 90s and stuff like, no wait, not base 90s, I think it's like 88s. I think that's how it works. Base 88s have to run Jolly Max speed? Or no, have to run at least Jolly. I can't remember. But this forces team building in a very unique way because it's very hard to switch into Nidoqueen and it's also very difficult to take it down. A lot of people think that they can switch into their bulky water types and that they can spam Scald against me. I have Heliolisk to soak that up. They think that they can go into their ground type and soak up an Earth Power or a Sludge Wave. I have Skarmory to help out with that. So the two previous mons along with this, they really help out, and together they all help out my Zardex sweep in the late game just because of the fact that they can weaken down teams very easily. Now, Nidoqueen is a very good mon. I like it a lot. However, it worries me a little bit because I've never used Nidoqueen before. I've used Nidoking, and it's very offensive and it's faster. It's more offensive than this. But this is a bulky tank, and my team is going towards a bulky offensive route right now with pretty much Heliolisk as my only offensive mon, and this was starting to worry me. It's even worrying me to this point after the draft is finished. But one other thing that I knew I wanted, now that I have Toxic Spikes, I have to get a Ghost type. Like, I have to. Every other Ghost type I wanted was pretty much gone. Like, Decidueye was gone. I'm trying to think. But my good buddy John took that, so I couldn't be too upset with that. And it fit his team perfectly, so it's not like I could be like, well, why did you even take that? It fit his team perfectly. I'm trying to think. What other ghost types are gone? There was a lot of them. I don't think Kofag was gone yet, but I didn't want Kofag just because it was a ghost type that, I don't know. With the way that I like to run teams, I would run Toxic Spikes on it a lot, and I think that kind of starting to limits it, so I didn't want to do that. Plus, the main thing that's awesome about a ghost type is being able to Will-O-Wisp things. And if I can Will-O-Wisp walls, like really fat teams, like if I can Will-O-Wisp a physical wall, like a Chestnut or something like that, it makes Zardex's job so much easier to set up. And I started looking at ghosts that were still available, and I was like, whoa, I don't have a bulky water type either. So Jellison pretty much just fell right into my lap. It's a very good mon. It's very bulky on both sides. Base 100 HP, base 60 speed is really, really good. Oh, also I didn't mention, I don't have any taunt. Skarmory gets taunt, but I don't have any like good fast. I don't even want to say fast. Walls that I can run speed in them, still be fat, and I can taunt other walls. And that's Jellison. It's base 60. It can taunt things. I wouldn't run taunt on Skarm because I can whirlwind and phase out, but I can run taunt on this. It's very, very good at taunting. It's very good at Will-O-Wisping. It's another water immunity, so that again forces bulky water types to run other coverage that they wouldn't normally do just to hit my bulky water type. And the awesome thing about this is that it's another wall with reliable recovery. In one of the leagues that I'm in, none of my walls have reliable recovery, and it makes me hate the draft. It really does. It makes me not even want to build with the team. So having Skarm, Jellison, and Zardex with all reliable recovery makes me very happy. But with Jellison, I have access to Will-O-Wisp. I have a Scald user, which is really important. I have Spin Blocker. That's the word I was looking for. I was like, blocking spinners? No. I have a Spin Blocker, which is really important for Hazard Stack. The problem is right now I don't have a Rapid Spinner, so I want to get one of those, but I do have a Spin Blocker to stop things like Donphan from just freely spinning on me. And with a base 100 HP, 70 defense, I can switch in on stuff pretty easily. And even if I do get hit by a knockoff or I get hit by a dark type move, I can recover it off pretty easily just because of how fat this thing is. And I really, really like that about Jellison. It has 3 immunities, which is also really cool. It has a fighting immunity, which I have a resistance to, and I have a weakness to. So having an immunity is really cool. And it's also a normal immunity, which is really, really cool. So after this, I was like, well, again, I still need my fairy. Oh, this also gives me the fire water portion of my draft. So I wanted my grass type. I also want my fairy type pretty soon. And speaking of fairy types, I wanted one. There wasn't a whole lot of them left on the board. Oh, also, I should mention this. There's only 10 mons on the side, like over there. But this is an 11 mon draft. So once I get down to the bottom mon, don't click out of the video. The last mon is the best one, and it actually glues together the team pretty well. But whenever I was looking at fairies that were left, there were things like Shiinotic, there was Comfey, there was a bunch of really interesting new fairies that I could have taken. There was even a couple fairies that I wanted to take. However, the one that I think fits my team the best is the one that I ended up taking. And that is Whimsicott. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking to yourself right now, how does Whimsicott fit your team the best? Why would you draft such a weak Pokemon? I mean, 77 base special attack is pretty terrible. However, whenever you face this thing hits surprisingly hard. And you don't understand why. A base 116 speed is an awesome speed tier. It outspeeds the Lotties. It outspeeds base 115s, which is really, really cool. This gives me Prankster Taunt, Prankster Encore. This gives me another U-Turner, so I have 2 U-Turners now. And the big thing that this thing gives me is an immunity to Dragon. Being able to have an immunity to Dragon along with Skarm is pretty cool. Granted, my immunity and my resistance are both weak to fire, so that's a little bit less than ideal, but you know, whatever. I can deal. And with how fast this thing is, this also gives me a Prankster Tailwind user. So if I run like Tailwind Memento into Zardex, it's pretty much a wrap. But yeah, this thing has a really good support moveset. I wanted Whimsicott so I could take advantage of walls. With Zardex being able to set up on walls that have been taken advantage of, I wanted that. I wanted this to be able to shuffle around team members. I wanted to be able to stop teams from doing whatever they wanted to do. And Whimsicott's a very good mon at doing that. And I know it doesn't even look fat, but until you faced a Subseed Whimsicott that just never dies, you won't understand how fat it is. And it's one of the most annoying Pokemon in the entire world to face with Subseed. I cannot stand it. But it's really, really cool. And I love Whimsicott as a Pokemon. It's been one of my favorite Pokemon since I first saw it in Gen 5. Overall, I'm happy with it. I don't think there was a better fairy I could have gotten. I could have gotten Comfey, but I would have gotten like Prankster Recovery, but I don't really care about that. This thing also has Leech Seed, so it can wear down walls pretty effectively with that. I really like Whimsicott. I think it fits on the team perfectly. I really, really like it. And now that I have another bulky pivot, well, not bulky pivot. I don't know how to word it. Whimsicott isn't bulky. It's not offensive, but it's a pivot. What kind of pivot? I don't know. I don't know how to describe it. It's a very, very, very unique mon, and it'll work out very well for the team. So, let's talk about another snipe that happened. All of this was from Nidoqueen to Whimsicott. Literally just because I got sniped so much. I had no idea what to take, so I just took the best thing that was available and took what I wanted. Now, something that sniped me that really hurt me, after this, I realized what I wanted my last 4 picks to be. I was okay with them all being tier 5s. I was completely okay with it, actually, with the ones that I had. And for me to do that, I would have to take... what's it called? No, it would... I'm trying to think, what was it? No, it was a tier 2. I forget how I made the points work, but... Oh, I remember. I was going to take a tier 3? Whatever. It doesn't matter. I wanted bird spam. I really wanted bird spam. I wanted something to bait in stupid steel types. I wanted a way to bait in things like Registeel, things that Zardex can look at and set up on, things that I can send Nidoqueen in and taunt them and wear them down well for Zardex to OHKO them later on in the game. I wanted a way to bait in steel types and still beat them with my bird spam. So I wanted Staraptor. I wanted arguably the best bird spam user in League format since Talonflame got its nerf. Man, my throat's itchy. And whenever Staraptor got picked, I was gutted. I was so upset. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what to take. I had no idea what to do. I was so upset. I was looking forward to having another base 100. I was looking forward to the reckless Brave Birds and Double Edges. There was a lot that I was looking forward to. And when that got sniped, I was so upset. However, I still did get bird spam, and I got, in my opinion, one of the top 3 bird spam users in League format. And that's Braveiary. Now, whenever I was looking at bird spam I could take, I could have taken Dodrio, I could have taken this. There was one other flying type that I was looking at that I could have taken to replace the bird spam. However, I started thinking about the theme of the team that I wanted, and that was Hazard Stack to get into Zardex. And what's one way to prevent defog? Have a Defiant user. Wow! I never even thought of that whenever I was first thinking of the team. I was like, ooh, that'd be pretty cool. So now, not only do I have a spin blocker that people have to prep for, I have a Defiant user that people have to prep for not defogging away spikes, stealth rocks, and toxic spikes. And that's really, really cool. Having that base 80 speed is also unique because right now I have a Nidoqueen at 76, so this forces things like Darmanitan to run Jolly, things like that. So that's really nice. Brave Bird is really, really powerful coming off of base 123 physical attack. If I wanted to run Sheer Force with things like Rock Slide, I could. So this thing isn't just straight up walled by certain types because it does have access to Rock Slide, Brave Bird, Return, U-Turn. Superpower is another one. So this thing isn't completely walled out by steel types either, and that's why I really like it. And plus, I just think it's a really cool looking mon. I know that has nothing to do with like the viability of it on the team or like how it synergizes well, but I enjoy the mon in general, so that's really nice. Plus, base 100 HP is really, really good. This gives it a Spadef set and a Fizdef set actual viability because I can run it, have base 80 speed, still be fast, I can still roost up on things, and I can still be ow. I can run bulk up on this, so that's really cool. But overall, Braveiary gives me I like to call it the bait and switch, the things that force in something that you want to come in. Braveiary does that for me. This forces in rock types that I can go into Jellison. This forces in steel types that I can go into Jellison, Nidoqueen, I can go into Zardex. I can even go into one of my last 4 mons. Oh man, so excited to tell you guys what the next mon is. Now, once I got Braveiary, I went back to well, what's the best thing that's available? Now, I want you guys to know, this was nowhere on anybody on my draft plan. I did not want this mon. I thought it had already been taken. Whenever I noticed it hadn't been taken, I didn't care what I had. I didn't care what I wanted. I did not care about anything. All I cared about was getting this Mon. I didn't care how many tier 5s I had to take for my last 3 picks. I did not care how much my team would suffer from having to take the rest tier 5s, and I didn't care how much this doubled up on typings. And I didn't care how weak this made me to ground. Spoiler alert, this is a weakness to ground. I do have a resistance in Whimsicott. I have 2 immunities in Skarmory and Braveiary, and I have a fat thing in Jellison. So I can still deal with ground pretty well at this point, so it's not like it's the end of the world. And this helps me with the setup spam that I want. This combined with Zardex gives me 2 of the best setup sweepers in League format. And that is just scary to prep for on its own. Like, I would hate to prep for Zardex plus this Mon. And if you do not know what I think one of the biggest win cons in any draft league is, I drafted it. And that, my friends, is Lucario. Holy crap. Lucario fell to me round 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. In a 24-man draft, Lucario fell to me round 8. Not even early round 8. I was in the middle of round 8. Like, that's insanity to me. Base 90 speed. Another speed tier I do not yet have. So now I go from fastest to slowest. I go from 116, 109, 100, 90, 80, 76, 60. No, 76, 70, 60. So there's not a whole lot of speed gaps in there. That's awesome. I love that. So I can afford to take some super, super slow walls in the last couple rounds. What Lucario brings to the team is a win con every single week. This gives me 3 forms of priority that, again, I do not yet have. With Extreme Speed, Bullet Punch, Vacuum Wave, I have a very, very, very strong priority user in this. This gives me a Nasty Plot user and a Swords Dance Sweeper, both of them boosting its priority. So that's awesome. This gives me a Justified user, so it kind of sort of wants to prevent knockoff that might want to come at Jellison. I can go into Lucario, and I can take a knockoff, get a +1 attack, and have fun switching into +1 attack close combats or extreme speeds, and that's always fun. This thing has an insane move pool. Every single week, you can make it a win con. Like, no matter what anyone says, you can make this a win con. You can find something on your opponent's team that you can build around this, set up enough, and sweep with priority. Late game, this thing can sweep with priority, and that's awesome. Even like middle of the game, if you want to just break a wall for one of your other offensive mons, this can do that for me, and that's really, really nice. Having this mon is very helpful for my team. Now, my choices for fighting types. I went from Primeape. That was going to be my original pick this round, was Primeape. And I was going to have 60 leftover points. I could use that in free agency. I could drop like Whimsicott and get a fairy that maybe got dropped or something like that. I could offer trading something for Heliolisk plus the points. So there was definitely a lot of things that I could have done with that extra 60 points. I then looked at Mienshao, which I could have afforded with everything that I wanted. It would have just been an even drop, and I could have gotten that. I'm already using Mienshao. Mienshao is a fantastic mon. IMO, Mienshao probably would have fit this team a little bit better because it does have U-turn. So I can force in things and I can just U-turn on them, and then I can go into my other offensive mons. Like I could go into Zardex and set up on bulky psychics or something like that. But I ended up going with Lucario, and that meant that I wasn't going to be able to take everything that I wanted late round. I had to re-pick everything. I was going to take Mesprit again because it would give me that third stealth rocker. It would give me a slow U-turner for a bulky psychic type. It would do a lot, actually. Overall, I think that Lucario was the best pick just because it's something I haven't used before. And something that I want to use just so I can be a more well-rounded draft league player. If I don't do well with it, I don't do well with it. It's not the end of the world. However, it is a fantastic mon. and I'm very happy I got it. I did have to drop Mesper for it. I also had to drop another tier 4 mon that I was going to take. I was going to take Mienshao, 2 tier 4s, and a tier 5. I now have to take 3 tier 5s. So I did kind of sort of shoot myself in the foot a little bit, but it was so worth it for Lucario. Lucario is a fantastic mon. So my entire theme around this team was getting a team that could get into Zardex, wall break for Zardex, set up for Zardex to sweep, set up for Lucario to sweep, set up, well, now that I have Lucario, set up for Lucario to sweep. So since they're very similar mons, just very different typings with different moves that they use, like, they're both really good at setting up, they're both really good at sweeping teams. So I wanted to have another way of weakening my opponent's offenses to make it easier for this to set up on mons. And there was a stupid Gen 7 mon introduced that fit this team perfectly. And what else could it be aside from a Alolan Persian? This is one of the dumbest looking mons in the entire world, but it fits this team great. The big thing that a Alolan Persian does for me is it gives me Parting Shot. Giving me Parting Shot on a bulkier team to get into Zardex, to get into Lucario, to get into something else is huge. This also gives me a stab knockoff user, which I don't think I have a single knockoff user on my team. Actually, no, Whimsicott gets knockoff, I think, for some dumbass reason. But having a Alolan Persian is huge. This now gives me a knockoff switch in. I do not have one of those. Like, Whimsicott can be a good knockoff switch in, but if I don't want Lucario to lose its item, I don't have a knockoff switch in. This can be a really good knockoff switch in. With Fur Coat, it doubles its defense, and with how fast it is, it can outspeed a lot of things. So max HP with Fur Coat plus like max speed is very, very good. This gives me another Taunter. It gives me a stab knockoff. But the big thing that Alolan Persian did for me that I don't think anybody realizes is it gives me a very good Parting Shot user. Parting Shot to weaken an opponent, go into Zardex, and then they have to think, wow, I can't touch this now. That's really, really cool. Having Persian again is pretty cool because I had it before and it's actually really, really powerful. Like with Technician, it's pretty strong. Like Bite, believe it or not, is actually pretty cool. It has access to some really good special moves as well. Has access to U-turn if I don't want to run Parting Shot. Like if I'm going up against, Bisharp didn't get drafted. But like say I'm going up against a Bisharp and I don't want to give it the Defiant boost from Parting Shot, I could have just clicked U-turn on it. So it has more than one way of pivoting for my team, which is really cool. I now have 4 of them and 2 phasers, so that's awesome. I really like Alolan Persian on this team, honestly. I don't think there was a better tier 5 for me to pick. Plus, I know I sniped a lot of people with it, like 3 people I know of. And that's always fun. When you snipe someone, it's always fun. It's not fun when you're sniped, but when you snipe someone else, it's pretty fun. And that base 115 speed is really, really cool. I love that. It's another speed tier I do not have. I have a 116, but I don't have a 115. And, another big thing that this does. This gives me a Ghost check. While I do have 2 immunities to Ghost, normally Ghosts have really good coverage, and their only coverage at Dark types is Focus Blast, so if they miss a Focus Blast, that's, probably going to happen. But this also gives me a very fast check to Ghost types. Things like Heliolisk don't outspeed things like Gengar. Alolan Persian does, and that's really cool. So I really like Alolan Persian. I really like it. Plus my boy Burge, he's been using it in his draft league, the ISL, and he does it. Listen to me. He uses it extremely, extremely well. He knows how to use it. He knows the spreads to run. So whenever I showed him what I got, he said, that's a really good mon. It's surprisingly underrated, and I'm hoping to prove that this season. Now, these final 2 picks, as I said before, you can tell right down there, there's only 1 mon, just because it looks better having 10 and then the final mon up above my head. So once I show you this mon, there's still 1 more. Keep that in mind. So I had to drop Mesprit, and I do not have a Psychic type on my team. And all of the Pixies are tier 4, except for Azelf, that's tier 2. So I couldn't have gotten Uxie, plus it was already taken. But having to drop Mesprit for another bulky psychic type was for tier 5 was terrifying. I knew I wasn't going to get another Stealth Rocker with this pick. However, there is a bulky psychic type in tier 5 that has access to some setup moves and baton pass that could be very useful. And that's Musharna. Now, this mon is actually very, very underrated in my opinion. It's fatter than Reuniclus, so it can tank hits better than Reuniclus. The only problem is it doesn't have Magic Guard, so it can be toxic, but this has access to Heal Bell, so this gives me a Cleric for the team. This gives me a Moonlight user, so I have another wall with reliable recovery, and this also gives me a very, very slow baton pass, and that's very crucial, because if I'm going against something and I want to get a very slow baton pass out, like I want to see what my opponent is going to do, I can do that with this mon. I can set up Cosmic Powers, I can set up Calm Minds with this, and I can baton pass them out into one of my offensive threats or another wall, make them live even longer, and just do some damage that way. Synchronize is also a really cool ability, just because it forces people to not toxic me. It'll toxic them, and I have Heal Bell, so I can heal off my own toxic, and that's always nice. But with 116 HP, 85 in defense, and 95 in SPDEF, it's I'm going to call it a poor man's Reuniclus. It's fatter. It really is. And, in my opinion, it actually has better move coverage than Reuniclus. This thing does have access to Psyshock, Psychic, Shadow Ball, has access to Energy Ball, all like Reuniclus does. But one thing that Reuniclus does not have that hurts it every single time I want to build with it is the fact that it doesn't have Dazzling Gleam. This has access to Dazzling Gleam. So, it's not a terrible bulky psychic by any stretch of the imagination. It's very low budget and it's very low tier, but it's still an extremely good Pokemon. But oh my gosh, I'm so excited to use this. I'm going to curse someone with, but I'm going to sweep someone with passing like Cosmic Powers into Zardex from this thing. I'm going to do it 1 week. You're not going to know when, but it's going to happen. So that's really exciting. Musharna is a very unique mon, and I'm really excited to be using it. I know my friend Slyro, he loves this mon, and I never understood why until I started looking at it, and I was like, oh, that's why. Okay, I really like that, so I'm excited to be using it. Now, the final pick of the entire draft. Also, let me say, this also, well, my final pick also got sniped from me. Instead of Musharna, I was going to take Licky, and then I was going to take Musharna. But of course, Licky got sniped from me, as did everything in this draft. But a good friend of mine, Onesie Bayonet, Alex, he opened my eyes to some very low tier meme picks that can be very annoying to certain people, like Shroom Raver. I'm sorry, Shroom. I'm so sorry, Shroom. I really am. I'm really sorry. But this last mon glues my team together, because as of right now, I have some decent SPDEF walls. I have a Jellison, and I have a Musharna right here. They're both weak to dark. So if I'm facing a Hydreigon, I want something to be able to take on that Hydreigon. Like, I want something that can switch into it. I cannot believe I'm actually about to say I drafted this. But this was the last mon that I drafted. Yep. Fucking LickaTon. Get at me. So there was a lot of reasoning behind this. This is not a meme pick. This is a very serious pick. So LickaTon does a lot of things, believe it or not. It has Wish, it has Protect, it has Heal Bell, so it is a second overall Cleric for the team. It is a little bit less fat than P2, so I like to call it the poor man's P2. It takes about an extra 8 to 12% on every single hit. So that's not too bad, realistically, because P2 like chews hits like a champ. It has access to Body Slam, so it can paralyze things. It has a great move pool, piss poor offenses, with 55 in attack and 60 in special attack. So people would say that it could be considered setup fodder. It has Dragon Tail. So there was a lot of normal types I was considering. I was considering Kangaskhan. I was considering Audino. I was considering a lot of very fat ones because I wanted another cleric and I wanted something that was immune to ghost, that was a very fat mon. And all of them were setup fodder. Every single one of them. And I started looking at LickaTon and I was like, oh my god. I'm about to draft a LickaTon. So this thing also has access to knockoff bolt beam coverage. So if something is like 4 times weak to fire, like a Ferrothorn or a Scizor, I can hit it up with a flamethrower. This thing is very fat. Being able to Dragon Tail is also very, very huge. And 90 base HP wishes aren't bad. Like, whenever you look at my team, the only thing that I have over base 100 HP, I think, is Jellison and Musharna. So everything else will be receiving at least 50% from this if I run max HP. Nidoqueen is base 90, so I think it's a very good pickup for the team. Gives me a very good tank to switch in, take a hit, switch out, phase around mons. I now have Dragon Tail on this, Roar on Nidoqueen, Roar on Skarmory. I really feel like Braveiary has Whirlwind, and I feel like Alolan Persian has Roar. So I can hazard stack and I can effectively wear down teams with mons. I can do a lot of stuff with LickaTon added to the team. Oh my god, I drafted a damn LickaTon. But when Licky was sniped, this was the second best mon to do what Licky did. It's very fat. It's fatter than LickaTon. Or, I'm sorry, it's fatter than Licky. And I don't have to worry too much about fighting types. Like, they might want to spam knockoff against me. Whatever. I can run a Braveiary Jellison and I can deal with it. I can run a Braveiary Musharna and I can deal with it. And if they want to try to hit my LickaTon with a fighting type move, I have 2 immunities. I have 1 resistance, 2 resistances, I'm sorry. So I have some really good ways to support it. And the one thing that nobody knows, LickaTon with Wish and Heal Bell has the ability Oblivious. Well, it can have the ability Oblivious. So it can't be taunted. So I will forever have a free Wish, and I can protect this thing. I can pass a Wish off. I can Heal Bell up my team. If Zardex gets poisoned, I can Heal Bell that off. I can Heal Bell it off with Musharna. There's a lot that I can do with this team. So I'm extremely happy with it. I'm extremely happy with LickaTon. It's probably one of my favorite mons on the team, honestly. Like this, Lucario, Zardex, there's a lot of them that I'm really excited to be using. And I'm hoping to shed some light on some of these mons. Like, a lot of people don't understand that Whimsicott's really good. People don't understand that Heliolisk, Nidoqueen are very, very good. So I want to just kind of sort of shed some light on them. But I'm very happy with the team. I hope you guys do like the team. If you do, or if you don't, I don't really care which. Make sure you let me know what you think of it down in the comment section below. I'm really excited for this season. I'm going to be making this my main league, even over the PPL. I'm going to be focusing on this more, just because this will help the channel the most, and I really like the people in there. So this will be my main league up on the channel, and I hope you guys are ready for it. But with that, guys, I'm going to go ahead and get on out of here. Thank you guys again so much for watching, and make sure you guys let me know what you think down below in the comment section. I will see you all in the next video. Bye-bye. Me.